Unit 731, The Hell on Earth, was created in 1936 by the authorization of Emperor Hirohito in Japanese-occupied Chinese Manchuria with the aim of developing biological weapons. It was named Water Supply and Prophylaxis Administration of the Kwantung Army. In order for the facilities to remain shrouded in secrecy, prisoners there were referred to as Maruta or logs for secrecy and dehumanization reasons. Dr. Horace Sheldon estimates that at least 10 to 12,000 prisoners died in the biological experiments, mainly Chinese, but also prisoners of different ethnicities and nationalities, other than Japanese, of course. It should be noted that the vast majority of the experiments in the facility were carried out to fulfill morbid curiosity. Those performing or overseeing the studies were described as merrily playing. A testimony from a Japanese professor who witnessed the studies was quoted saying that some of the experiments had nothing to do with advancing the capability of a germ warfare or medicine. There is such a thing as professional curiosity. What would happen if we did such and such? What medical purpose was served by performing and studying beheadings? None at all. That was just playing around. Professional people too like to play, you know. These experiments were like, I dreamed of this yesterday, and this, and then this, but I wonder why that person in my dream didn't die. Yoshimura Hisato, an army engineer working at Unit 731, was particularly interested in studying hypothermia, which is extreme cold. As part of studying injuries to limbs, Hisato would place the prisoner's arms or legs in tubs of water filled with ice until they froze solid, and a layer of ice formed over the skin. The ice was then chipped away, and different treatments were applied to the affected area. The soldiers in the unit referred to Yoshimura as a scientific devil and a cold-blooded animal. Because of his strict nature and involvement in mass killings and cruel experiments, these experiments included exposing 20 children and even a 3-day-old baby to freezing temperatures and salt. Barbaric, isn't it? Hang in there. You're still at the beginning. This is truly terrifying. Thousands of men, women, children, and infants were cut open while they were still alive and awake. Often without any painkillers, they would put a rag in the prisoner's mouths to keep them from screaming. These surgeries were done after infecting prisoners with various diseases to see what the diseases did to the human body. Some prisoners had their arms or legs cut off to study blood loss, and sometimes the removed limbs were attached to the other side of their bodies. Others had their stomachs removed and their esophaguses were reattached to their intestines. Parts of organs like the brain, lungs, and liver were also taken out. Once the prisoner's body were completely used up and exhausted, they were killed either by being shot or injected with deadly diseases. Human targets were used to test grenades positioned at various distances. Flamethrowers were tested on people. Victims were also tied to stakes and used as targets to test pathogen-releasing bombs, chemical weapons, shrapnel bombs with varying amounts of fragments, and explosive bombs, as well as bayonets and knives. Unit members forced the transmission of the disease between infected and non-infected prisoners. After victims were infected, they were vivisected at different stages of infection so that internal and external organs could be observed as the disease progressed. Some children grew up inside the walls of Unit 731, infected with syphilis, and were tested in ways similar to their parents, with a specific emphasis on determining how longer infection periods affected the effectiveness of treatments. In other tests, subjects were deprived of food and water to determine the amount of time until death, placed into low-pressure chambers until their eyes popped from their sockets, hung upside down until death, crushed with heavy objects, electrocuted, placed into centrifuges and spun until death, injected with animal blood, notably horse blood, exposed to lethal doses of X-rays, injected with seawater, and burned or buried alive. Tests also included dehydration with giant hot fans. It has been reported that at death, the corpses would only weigh about 1/5 of normal body weight. This one is quite hard to illustrate. All I can say is that a large number of babies were born in captivity under very bad circumstances. There have been no accounts of any survivors of Unit 731, children included. I will not proceed, but if you like, there are honestly so many more gruesome experiments that I just can't get into here. If you are curious, I would encourage you to look them up, but it's really bad, so you've been warned. As World War II came to an end, Japanese authorities tried to hide the evidence of their crimes. They killed the remaining prisoners and workers, destroyed incriminating documents, and told their staff to disappear, even giving them cyanide pills for potential use. But when the USA knew about these crimes, they hold those involved accountable and achieve justice. In your dreams. The reality is that when the USA knew about the unit, they threatened to involve the Soviets unless Japan shared information. Then they granted immunity to Unit 731's doctors in exchange for their research, which was kept secret from other countries. After World War II, the Soviet Union went after and prosecuted top military leaders and scientists from Unit 731 and similar units. The United States, however, ignored these trials, dismissing them as a communist propaganda, even though there was evidence that Unit 731 members had shared biological warfare information with the Soviets. As a result, most of these researchers and doctors went back to normal life in occupied Japan, many becoming prominent members of university faculty. To this day, Japan hasn't apologized for, and China hasn't forgiven the countless atrocities Japanese forces committed against China between 1931 and 1945. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.